everybody's questions answered. So I'm gonna flip my camera around so you guys can see the products that I'm talking about and some of the basics when it comes to having success with your nails lasting long for the amount of time it's recommended, and how to really get uh, from start to finish great gel nails, and a little bit about how the gels work and their strength. So I'm going to flip this and there we go. Going to first talk about the products I'm going to be using today. First are the prep products. So here I have my lint-free wipes, my pusher, my nipper, the files I'm going to be using, the LED light I'm going to be using, nail surface cleanse, the alcohol product I'm going to be using to clean the surface of the nails, pH bond, which is going to be my dehydrator, pH balancer, foundation, which is going to be the base coat that I'm going to use for most of these applications. And these products here are the builder gel type of products, going from the weakest, which is also the most flexible, to the next level of strength, to the strongest strength, and then different finishing options here. Um, Starting with the base coat here is going to be probably the most popular base coat in the nail industry and one of the most expensive. And the reason why it is one of the most expensive and the most popular is because it holds and adheres extremely well, and it soaks off very easy. So you get the best from both worlds, from it lasting long to it being taken off very easily. Then we have here Foundation Flex. Foundation Flex is a think of a rubber base, something that's got the rubber elasticity quality where it can flex like rubber, but it also has something special. The cap is gray, just like a dark gray like the base coat. And the reason why is because it does have base coat built into it. So with this product, you don't need to use a base coat because it does have foundation built into it. But it is also the most flexible out of all these builder gels. Would not You can do certain types of builds with this, but mostly overlays on natural damaged nails. And that's one of the best qualities about this is it's so flexible. Those nails that are weak, damaged, and thinned out, this will bend with their weak nails. Um, On to our next one, which is structure gel. This has been on the market for a long time, and a lot of people are familiar with structure gel. And with structure gel, you can extend with the tip to a certain degree, but you cannot sculpt with it. It is not strong enough to sculpt with, but you can extend using a tip, which I'm going to show you guys later. It does come in three different colors. So here we got our translucent pink, and a cover pink. The Foundation Flex, which I went over just over a second ago, it does come in four colors. So it does have pinks, three different pinks, and a clear. Now, the newest and one of my favorite, what I use a lot, is our new brush on builder. We call this Bob just because brush on builder might be too much to say for some of us. So here in the office, we refer to this as Bob. And Bob does come in different shades as well. Right here, we have seven different shades, and I made some swatches for you guys. So, in case you guys are curious of how they look on a clear nail pop, here's a little sample of how they look on a clear nail pop. So, let's start everything off. Let me know if this view is okay for you guys to see. My hand will be right around here. I might want to just lower this a little bit. I'm gonna lower you guys right around there. Um, at any time, if you guys feel like you're not seeing things clearly, please let me know so I could change the angle and change the view on some of these things. I'm gonna move these products to the side. And anytime I'm trying to have success on nails, especially gels, it really comes down to having a really good preparation. And so I'm going to do these three nails here, starting with the weakest product, um, which would be Foundation Flex. And Foundation Flex is an amazing product. A lot of people in our industry refer to a product like this as rubber base. So if you ever hear the terms rubber base out there, they're referring to a product like this that has a lot of flexibility and can act as a base coat. So there's many different options that you have with a product like this to fixing damaged, weak nails and also to use it as a base coat for those damaged weak nails. And now we have it in different colors to where you can just leave it as a standalone color. I'm going to use one of these pinks so you guys can see how the pinks are. I'm pretty sure you guys know what the clear would look like. But the thing is, with these, it is so easy to apply. Actually, all types of builder gels. After this class, I'm going to show you guys how easy it is to really apply these products. But the first thing we need to start off with is really clean and dry nails. So a product like this, Nail Surface Cleanse, this is going to be a mixture of alcohol and a little bit of acetone and a little bit of conditioner as well. Really good to clean really well. If you don't have a product like this, I would use a really strong alcohol. The stronger, the better. You don't want to use 70% alcohol when you're first starting things off because you want the surface to be dry and clean. I clean up to the knuckle because I really like to have really good grip and stability. And you'll see when I clean the nail here, I go around the cuticle, around the sidewalls, and the free edge of the nail here. And most of the times when you're having chipping, it's going to happen right here at the free edge. So make sure you clean the free edge and the free edge is nice and clean. And we do this before we even put the file close to the nail.
Would
I,
anybody with latex sensitivity have an issue with any of these products?
cool. We're going to,
Hey, Vu,
yeah,
would somebody who is allergic or may have sensitivities to latex have any issues with this product?
they should not. Latex sensitivities should not be affected by an alcohol-based product like this.
And same
So
with the rubber base coat and
yeah,
any,
yeah.
okay,
It's not made of rubber or latex. That's kind of like an
a
industry what they.
descriptive term.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So don't worry about these products. If you're allergic to latex, you don't have to worry about Foundation Flex affecting you. So here I'm taking what we call our spoon pusher. This is at an angle. It's not straight across like some other pushers you will find on the market. Here's our other version, which is straight. I prefer this angled version just because it doesn't force me to lift my elbow to try to get a good scrape on that non-living tissue. So there are two really important seals on the natural nail, one up here at the cuticle and down here at the free edge. And we don't want to break those seals. First thing I'm going to do is push, knowing that there is a seal there. I'm trying not to separate that seal and create any problems later on down the road where we're worried about getting infections. And most of you guys should know that the most important part about the nail and the anatomy of the nail is going to be right here at the matrix, and that's where all the cells reproduce. And that's why we don't want to break the seal right here that's keeping bacteria and germs going into that area that's reproducing the cells. So very important to know that right here below that skin is where your cells reproduce for this nail. And that's why we don't separate that seal, and it will hurt. You can feel it whenever it separates, but that is the part that really protects our matrix right there. So, and you'll see me pushing down here, not up here. I'm pushing down here in the middle of the nail bed because the true cuticle, what we're really trying to get rid of, is a layer of dead, dry skin that is growing on the nail plate. You'll see these flakes of white. And here, I'm going to flip my tool around and go in around the cuticle, and you'll see here, you see the grains of white there built up on the side? That is what we're trying to remove. Go around, and I'm doing the other side now, and you will see these bits of white come off. That's all dead, dry skin. And that's what we really want to remove. And I like to think of any type of skin that you're trying to get things to stick to, they're not going to stick, especially gel products. Anything professional, you got to remove the skin. Especially if you get flooding or you get anything that goes on the skin. With gel products, sometimes even after you clean them, there is a residue left behind, and it can cause lifting. So things that get on the skin will lift immediately. Even this dead, dry skin can lift. So we're trying to get rid of all of this, and you'll see I have quite a bit because I have not done this to myself in a while. Gonna dust it off, dust that off, and then we're gonna take our cuticle nippers and just remove what's going around. And from here, it looks like my seal is lifted up, but it's not broken. So I like to just start on one side, and I'm just getting rid of whatever's sticking up. I'm not breaking. Once I get rid of this piece here, you're gonna see that my seal is still intact. Nothing's gonna get inside and infect my matrix. So you can see there, my seal is nice and still intact. Anything that's just really popping up and anything that's really going to get in your way or your brush's way. And now I can go and start prepping around the cuticle and getting my free edges. Anytime you're doing your free edges of a natural nail, you want to use a very fine grit, like a 240 grit on your free edge. I had already prepped these two, so I'm not going to do that. And I'm just shaping the free edge here with my 240 grit file. And we found that if you go under a microscope with the free edge and it's been filed by a 240 versus a 180, the 180 can leave microscopic fraying on the edges of the free edge, whereas the 240 will leave a very nice free edge where the fibers have not been frayed at all. Now, I find it a lot easier when doing gel nails to use a file around the cuticle. Some people will use an electric file, and that's okay as long as you know how to use it. I'm just going to do this with a 180 where I just go very gently around the cuticle, and I'm not pressing down at all. There's no pressure. I'm just removing any little bits of that non-living tissue, that dry skin. Some of us will call this the true cuticle. And we're just going around that area. And once I get my file taken off, you'll see I didn't go over the entire nail using this file. I'm just getting around that cuticle area. Any stubborn skin that you really have a hard time removing with either this tool or this tool, I would use this tool. Now, to remove the shine off the entire nail, I will take a 100 180 grit buffer, and I'm using the 100 side, the rougher side. To understand files and buffers, the lower the number, the rougher it's going to be. Going just to remove the shine, I'll show you at a side angle. We're not really pressing down to where the cushion is being pressed. All we're doing is just gently removing the shine. You don't really need to remove any layers off that natural nail. Now, why do we not want to remove layers of the natural nail? Is because the natural nail is going to be your best foundation you can have for any type of enhancement product. The the stronger you keep the natural nail, the better products are going to hold on to there. So sometimes if a nail has been really damaged, it's not going to hold on that great unless you have a product like Foundation Flex. After I removed that, I made sure that I used a new buffer, and there's no oils on that buffer because my nails are super dry and clean. I'm going to clean it one more time. Once again, we're going to use nail surface cleanse for this. And earlier I said don't use like the cheap 70% alcohol. And the reason why is because 30% of that is going to be water. And you don't want to leave moisture on a nail when you're going to seal a product on top of that nail. Go ahead and clean this really well again. And our other prepped nails. Once this dries, you'll see everything look really dry. And that's how they should look. The nails should not look like they're moist. They should look super dry when you're applying any type of enhancement type of product on there. So we want to make the nails even more dry. I'm going to take pH bond, and this is going to make everything dry as well as balance the pH level on the natural nail. Now, on the pH scale, it can go acidic or alkaline. We're going to go somewhere between in the middle. Going to take this, and this is going to dry really quick. We're just going to put this on the nail itself, just on the natural nail, and it will evaporate super quick. Right. Now, Foundation Flex, it does have the base coat built into it. So it does have our famous foundation in the base coat. It's not necessary to put this on, but if you want to make this application last even longer, even go past 2 weeks, then you could put this on and use this. Now you're having basically a double base coat. I'm not going to do that because it's really unnecessary. I'm going to choose this pink, mainly because it looks like a purple in the bottle, but as soon as I open it, it's going to have this really nice pink on there. And we're going to do a natural nail overlay, something that's going to be very typical of a product like this. And I want to show you guys up close how nice this looks when you open it. It's a beautiful pink. But when we apply, we're going to scrape one side of the brush as it's coming out of the bottle. So one side is going to be clean, and one side's going to have a little bit of product on there. Going to use the side with a little bit of product on there. And the first thing we want to do is make sure we get right down the middle and nothing gets close to any of the edges except for the free edge here. So I like to go, you see how far away my brush is from the cuticle? I'm just pressing down hard and my brush will fan out, meaning that that shows me the amount of pressure I'm putting on this. Is when the brush fans out, that means you're pressing down pretty hard. And you'll see it looks like a grown out nail because I'm not close to the cuticle. It looks like about 2 weeks of grow out. Now I'm going to get closer. While the product is still wet, get a little bit closer, but do not touch the skin. If you touch the skin, it's going to lift right where it touches. So we're not going to touch the skin. Leave a little gap on your first coat. That way you're guaranteed not to touch the skin. Cap, if you I'm capping a short little nail here. So after I cap, I brush over to smoothen that cap out. You'll see it's a very, very thin coat, super thin. I'm going to cure this now for 30 seconds. Turn my light on and do a 30-second cure. Sometimes when people feel a heat spike under a light, a lot of times that's going to be due to their natural nails being very thin and damaged. Um, I'm one of those people that I'm very sensitive to the the heat of when everything is curing under the light. And I do not feel anything right now. But I'm one of those that I'm very sensitive towards that. Any heat spikes, I can feel it right away. But in this case, I don't feel a thing. Um, and that's my first coat. I'm going to build on this coat very slightly, and same thing. I cleaned off the one side, the other side's where the product is. And I press down pretty firm and I'm getting closer to the cuticle. So you want it to be if you want it to gradually get thinner towards the cuticle, then your first coat you should stay further away. That way you're building towards a thin cuticle and thin sidewalls. So your first coat should be very thin and not touching anything. And then your second coat, the same, very thin as well. Cap that free edge. Usually after capping the free edge, I would always brush over the entire nail from cuticle all the way down to the free edge. But now I want to build a little bit. So I'm going to go back into my bottle here and I'm just going to do the exact same thing where I press out one side and just release a little bead. You'll see the amount I have on here is not a bunch. You don't need a lot, but you'll see I tilt my brush at an angle to where most of the product is going to lean towards the tip of that brush. On this wet layer, I'm going to build now. I'm going to hold my finger to the side so you can see how the bead releases. Once that bead makes once it makes contact right there, I will drag that bead towards the free edge and pull it off quickly to build that apex. And you'll see I let go of it, not in the center. So it's a little bit to the left, and that's fine. If I want to move it, I just gently touch it, make contact with that bead, and then I will brush it towards the front and release it. Now it's perfectly smooth all around. It's got a structure. It has an apex. Going to cure that for 30 seconds. Now, when we're talking about building a structure or an apex, you'll hear that a lot in our industry. We're talking about building thin, natural looking nails, but have strength of an artificial nail. Um, I'm going to take this out after 30 seconds and kind of show you guys exactly what we mean when we're talking about building the proper structure to a nail. And what I just did here was I released the bead in the center. So when you look at my natural, I know even though it's a short nail, you can still see that there is an apex. There is a high point here. And the high point is going to be right around there, which is where we want it. We want it a little bit towards the center, towards the cuticle a little bit. So when this nail grows out, it still has some of that strength and durability. So this is pretty much already done. All I need to do, since it is so smooth, I'm going to show you guys. You can pretty much tell from the reflection how smooth it is. I really don't need to file it. Um, so I'm not going to file it. I'm just going to top coat it and have a beautiful pink overlaid nail that is going to last 2 weeks. If you wanted to, you could apply your gel polish at this stage. And if, let's say, your nail wasn't smooth, you can wipe this nail with your alcohol product or nail surface cleanse and file, shape, and buff it, and then apply your top coat. But if you're working on that wet, slick layer, you will have the ability to have a super smooth nail. I'm using our original top coat now to top coat this nail. This is the original. Top it off. I'm going to show you guys a couple other variations on these other two nails later. But you guys can see it is ultra smooth. Did not get anything on my sidewalls. You can see that. It looks nice and dry. Now with the top coat, same thing. Release most of the product in the center. And you'll see when the brush fans out like this, that means I'm pressing down really hard to get it thin. But when I'm building, I'm doing more of a floating method. Once I touch, I gently float that brush to build that bead and then release it towards that free edge. So here's with the top coat. Going to cure that for 30 seconds. This is an original top coat where we do need to wipe the inhibition layer off this top coat. Now, all of these gels here do have an inhibition layer. So what that means is after curing, there is going to be a tacky layer that will need to be wiped using nail surface cleanse. And we do use this product a lot throughout this process. I'll get a wipe and gonna wipe off that inhibition layer from our top coat. And that's gonna be our finished look. You can see it's nice and smooth all the way around. It's gonna last at least 2 weeks. Now, if I put foundation on before the original formula, the base coat formula like this is gonna have more adhesive properties than foundation flex. So if I wanted this to go like 3, 4 weeks, I would have put a coat of this on first. But this has enough base coat foundation in it to go 2 weeks, no problem. So it depends on the client that you're working on, whether this client's a 4 week client, a 2 week client. If it's a 2 week client, I would just use it straight like this. If it's a 4 week client, I would put a coat of foundation on before this. But I'm a 2 week client, and that's what this is going to look like on me as a natural nail overlay. I'm going to get a bit so I'm going to sketch out a little bit about what I mean when it comes to building proper strength and making an apex. So you guys will see here. Let's say this is the fingernail. Usually, when you apply your first coat, make it so that the edges you're not so close to your edges, but you do get that free edge. So my first coat, I stay further away, and then you're building your next coat to fill that area in. But with gels, if you happen to get anything on the skin, and let's say you clean it up, sometimes that residue will still seep in. So it's much better to just not get it on the skin and you won't have lifting. And you'll notice that when your client comes back and you take a look at where the lifting was, it's typically going to be where the product touched the skin or you did not do a good enough job cleaning the skin. Here's what a proper apex should look like. And the apex is going to be the high point of the nail. So let's say that is the finger and this is the nail. Typically, when we talk about apexes, we talk about when you press down and you feel where the pressure of a person's use is being used the most, where they need the most strength on their nail. And typically, that's going to be somewhere around here. Um, Sometimes we put it right in the middle, but I find that it's better to move the apex a little further back and just for the grow out when the nail grows out a couple weeks later, you still have some sort of apex for the grow out. Um, Judging on how you do your client is where you're going to want the highest point of the nail to be where most of the strength is. So, but the most that you guys can take from this class is the best foundation you're going to have is a nice, strong, healthy, natural nail. With a strong, healthy, natural nail, even if you build your apex incorrectly, and let's say you built the apex at the free edge, and now you got this heavy free edge, which is going to make all of this back here weaker because all the weight's at the front. So even if you built it bad, but you had a strong natural nail, this will still last longer than if you had a perfect apex and a weak natural nail and you built this long sculpted nail on. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. All right, on to the next thing. Did a natural nail overlay, right? Didn't really need a file because it's such an easy product that we didn't even need a file to start. On this one, though, we're going to add a tip and doing an extension on here. When you're adding a tip, you don't the product's going to stick on so much stronger than the tip itself. So we don't need the tip way up here because that's all held together by glue. And the glues that are used to adhere tips on are cyanoacrylates, which is a type of glue that gets weaker and weaker after 2 to 3 weeks, and they will start to get brittle while they get weak. So we just want this to just hold the nail in place, not actually glued together like way up here. So get as little of the tip on your natural nail as you possibly can. So I try to just barely have the tip on there. It's only helping me build an extension. And there's many different types of glues you can use. I'm going to use dip glue or a dip base coat and activator, which is kind of cheating. It just makes it so that it activates. So I'm putting activator on here, just on the free edge of my nail. And then I'm going to apply glue to the tip. So just on the free edge of my nail, I applied activator, which is going to make that glue or the base coat here activate as soon as it touches the nail. So it's going to happen super quick. And you don't need a lot of glue. Actually, the less you have, most of the times, is better. So I try to get as little on here as I possibly can. I don't really need a lot. And I might have had a little too much, but that's fine. I'll just have to hold it there a little bit longer than I normally would. Then I'll flip this over. I'm going to try to get really close so you guys can see how you don't want to get
What's
a
in
lot. Go ahead.
what's in the activator?
So activator is going to, you we do have all the ingredients listed on there. I can show it up close. Um, it's going to be mostly the moisture in the activator that's going to create this bond. So what makes the cyanoacrylate really dry fast is typically moisture. Now I'm going to pinch in the sides here and pinch that tip in. So I'll show you guys here on camera. We do have all of the ingredients on our products listed. So here it's ethyl acetate and dimethyl tolu.
I mainly wanted to know because it was a step that I wasn't familiar with. So I guess I just wanted to know what was it about this activator that's different from anything I've ever seen. Not saying I just might be a little ignorant, but I just want to know what makes it a great process to do with this step. You know,
So
what explain it to me. That's what I wanted to know. Not necessarily that I don't know what that acetone stuff is anyway, but I just wanted to know
yeah, so like
why.
these words, it's just really hard to even pronounce these words, right? But the
Yeah, no, just
basic gist
why.
of it is the moisture from this is going to make this dry much faster. Is what that does. This just basically has a moisture in it, the ethyl acetate, to create this to harden.
So,
But
Vu, I'm gonna
Okay, thank
try.
you.
I'll try to explain it just because I'm very familiar with cyanoacrylate glues. So, cyanoacrylate is a resin adhesive that's found in super glues. Construction adhesive even has cyanoacrylate, and there's a difference in strength. So, obviously, super glues and construction adhesive has a higher concentration of cyanoacrylate, whereas nail glues or nail enhancements are very weak and typical CA glues have accelerators, which ours is called an activator. So what it's doing is it's increasing the polymerization rate. So it's making that nail glue or resin cure or dry faster. If we were not to use the activator, it'll still dry. It just takes forever. It takes longer. So it just accelerates the drying process of nail glues or resins. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
because it was a step I wasn't familiar with. That's exactly what we wanted to know. Thank you.
Yeah, and you can use our regular brush-on nail glue, which is our secure nail resin, to glue the tips on. But if you don't have it and you do have our dip base coat, it just dries slower than our typical nail glue. So the activator helps it dry faster. That's the only extras. That's the only thing it's really doing.
yep, correct. It's
So
only acting as
can we use your normal with
yes,
the technique if we don't use the activator in that? Can we just use the normal glue?
absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. This is just another option. One thing that I like to express when we're doing nails is not just one way. There's many different options. Like using one of these. I typically don't like using one of these tip cutters. I have more control using one of these, just your normal nail clipper. That way I can clip one side and get the other side the way I like it, especially when it comes to like more almond, rounder shaped nails. This just makes it so much easier, so much quicker for me to get that shape. And I always pinch down the two sides before I start filing the tip. I want to make sure and customize this tip to where it's going to be less work later on down the road. Um, when I apply my structure gel on here, I don't want the structure gel being all over the place and being so thick that I'm spending most of my time filing. And so I'm actually even going to file the tip and blend that tip into my natural nail.
You still using 180?
Yes, so this is still a 180 right here. And I'm pretty much going to use the 180 the entire time. I really don't need to get into a 150. Um, but that's just going to be me. If you're, you know, if you need to use a 150 or anything lower, then yeah, that's perfectly fine. That's up to you. But if you're gonna build the nail out and it's nice and smooth, chances are you're not gonna need to use such low grits. And I'm just really getting rid of this corner of that tip. I really don't need that corner popping out and giving the side of the nail like a hump or hips. we I really don't like that personally. So this is more of a preference thing, which a lot of these looks are preference based. So a client may not want this shape. That's just a preference thing. So we do have a lot of options in nails, which is really really good. I don't want to extend too far. If I go too far with structure gel is not going to be as strong as builder gel. So earlier I was going through the levels of strength. So structure is slightly stronger than foundation flex, which means it this will bend a lot more than this nail. So this nail I can squeeze it and it will bend. Whereas once I put this on, it'll be a lot less bending going on and more rigidity. So it's going to be a lot more rigid. I'm going to remove any of the dust here. Um, and I got to blend this side a little bit better and blend this part a little better. And you'll see I barely have the tip touching on the free edge of my nail. Most of it's going to be product holding it all together. And the product will bond much stronger than the glue. So base coat, foundation base coat. This and one thing we do on all of our bottles, besides the ingredients, we also have the directions on cure times and what it takes to what the directions are all listed on every bottle. So gonna apply a thin coat this exact same way I did the last one, just avoiding the cuticle areas and the sidewalls. Free edge, you do that's the one edge that you want to make sure you fully get. I'm applying my base coat. You'll see I start right here in the middle. I don't start way up here around the cuticle, just trying to avoid any flooding. So we don't want to flood, especially gel products. And you'll see I'm further away, and now I'm working my way up closer and closer, but I released majority of my product already, so now my brush barely has anything on it, and I can get closer to the cuticle because now my brush doesn't have it's not very loaded like it was before. Get super close, do not touch. And it should look something like this. We don't need to cap the free edge on nails with tips because we're going to typically need to file. Going to cure this for 5 seconds. And you only need 5 seconds with this base coat. Although if you're going to build and you plan on doing fills and you're not planning on removal, um, you can cure this for 30 seconds and it will hold on even stronger. But let's say this client wants to soak this nail off, then I would only cure this for 5 seconds. And 5 seconds is our typical, it is our standard. But now that we're having a lot more of these builder gels and a lot more people are wanting to do fills with these gels, I would recommend doing a 30 second. That way it's super stuck on there. So here I'm going to build a structure nail, and it's the exact same way as I would build with these. Actually, they're all the exact same way. except for the difference is going to be in how the extension part is made. So structure, I'm going to use a translucent pink. Open this up. And the exact same way too, we're going to brush off one side and have product on the opposite side. Same exact way of application. Start in the middle and brush that down, and then start working your way closer to the cuticle. And I left a gap there, and I always leave a gap that looks like a 2 week grow out. And then by the time I finish covering that whole nail, I will have less on my brush and I can get closer to the cuticle. And now I will go right down the middle. Usually the middle will always be my last coating. I'm going to cure this for 30 seconds. People that are really sensitive towards the light, like myself, I actually have it on 60 seconds. And the reason why is because the 60-second timer, I'll show you guys here. The light starts off weak and then it gradually gets stronger. So it it doesn't shock the nail right away. You're not getting that shock. It's almost like slowly flash cured at a weaker level. So that I always, and that's my standard for any type of building gel, is always do that first thin coat, right? This thin coat is extremely important in many things. It's a coat that you can guarantee is not touching the skin, and the other gel layers are going to follow that. Um, Making my next layer. And this layer also absorbs a lot of the heat from this next layer. Same application technique, taking my bead, pressing that bead down the center, and then getting to the two sides. Once again, I'm putting a lot of pressure on my brush. You can really see the brush fanning out and the bristles really spreading apart. And that's the thing with gel. You really, to put a lot of pressure on the brush, will get that thin coat like that. I want to build on this coat now. Gonna go back in and I will show you guys sideways again. When you're building, you want to get that teardrop piece so it's easy to release. Trying to get into the light so you guys can see. Structure is a little bit more viscous, so it's a little more thin than your brush on builder. So I want to make sure you guys can see this. Once you make contact, gently, and I'm floating my brush. Okay, I'm not pressing down, and then I'm going to release that right off that free edge. When I turn it over, you will see that I was favoring my left side, so I go back in and move it towards the right side a little bit more, just like that. Nice and smooth. We're going to cure that. And I don't feel any heat right now. My hand is fully in the light. I have it at 60 seconds. I don't feel any heat. Um, and a lot of it is because that first layer is absorbing a lot of the heat.
So the first layer you would consider the first, not the foundation, but the layer you put on after the foundation?
Yes.
Okay.
So my first layer with structure is absorbing a lot of that heat. And it's making a really tight bond with that foundation layer too, because it is a thin layer. It's going to cure thoroughly all the way through. So that's really important to get that thin layer first. And a lot of times my second layer, I left it wet and then I built on it. When we're doing that, we call that our slick layer and building on the slick layer. Okay, so that's done. If you look at the sides, I really need to build more right around here. It's a little flat. need to build on that. So best way to build, create a thin layer and then release the bead on that thin layer. You're going to do the same thing. With a tip, you're going to find that you're going to need to do more applications. So more building and more layering with tips or sculpt. With natural nail overlay, it's very little on there. So you don't need to build so much more. So here I did my thin slick layer and I'm going to build on that. Show you guys what building looks like from the top view. So my brush is, I made contact with my bead. I'm pulling it towards the free edge and I released it. So you can see it's perfectly in the middle now. It's going to level out. And if I didn't get that correct, like I did right here, if you see it's perfectly smooth, perfectly level, I'm going to cure that. But let's say I was off and I was off by a lot. I would turn the client's hand upside down and let gravity pull that bead to create that apex. Um, I'll show you guys with the next nail on how we would do that. But this nail is pretty much done. I would just need to do very, very little filing and my finish on there, which I'll just do a normal gel polish finish on here. Once this goes off, this does have an inhibition layer, so you will need a white and you will need to remove that inhibition layer. Hey, this is what that looks like before I file. You see how I brought my apex back up? I'll need to file a little bit where I got that bulk, but it is really nice and really smooth all the way around. I barely need to even touch the file with this, but I would recommend when you're making an extension like this that you do file and clean things up. So even though there's very little for me to do here, I do want to go through that that routine. And my gel polish will stick better to a filed or buffed surface. It it'll stick no problem to this surface or even the surface of the inhibition layer, but it can look a little watered down from the inhibition layer. So let's say I just directly applied my gel color or my gel polish right onto that inhibition layer. Sometimes, depending on the product, that inhibition layer can be a little bit thicker and can make your colors look a little more watered down. When it comes to filing the surface here, I like to get one side done first. And back when we were doing a lot of nail competitions, we used to talk about using the full board of the file, and that's what I'm going to do here. And really, that means just taking the from the very top here and running the entire board through that nail. And what that does is it gets you the best chance of having a perfectly smooth nail where you don't have a lot of valleys and ridges and humps and bumps. You want it to be perfectly smooth. So just with a few strokes, you saw I got like almost half of that nail completely filed. Same thing here. Oop, try not to hit my camera. And you'll see I'm running the entire board straight across the nail. Um, and if you're doing like pink and whites and you're you're really applying, let's say you're doing the reverse application, this is the way to file that application to get that perfect smile line. But you'll see I got both my sides within a few strokes. Very little to do around the cuticle because that blend is perfect with gels. It goes in there so smooth that I'm barely even touching the file around there. Where I need to get rid of is this slight hump, and it's very slight. I can barely even feel anything there. But I'll run my file right through there. And I always save the apex where I like my apex for last. And I move my apex back a little bit because most of the times my clients would go 3, 4 weeks. So the apex for me needs to be back here a little bit. And the apex is going to be the part that takes most of the beating on nails. Here, I'm just going to remove it till there's no longer that shiny spot. And it should only take a couple of strokes, and we should have a fully blended nail. I'm going to take my dusting brush and remove any dust. I'm confident enough that here I don't need to take a buffer and buff it. I know the surface is nice and smooth. It doesn't have too crazy of an etch on there with deep gouges or anything like that, that I can go in with my gel polish. So I'm going to I'll do like this green color on myself. This one's mint for me. This is from our new spring collection. Same thing as any gel. I would always scrape the one side and pull up to get that bead ready for application. And the same application technique. You'll see where I place that first stroke. And this should also look like there's a 2 week grow out. And once I get my nail completely covered, then I had a little too much, so I'm removing some of the gel as I get closer to the cuticle here. So now I'm getting closer to the cuticle, not super close because my next coat I'll get even closer. And that's how we're going to get that smooth gradation from the cuticle and not have, see, I left a little gap. And we want that little gap because we're going to fill that little gap with our next coat. Another thing that, we do have all the directions on these bottles, and we also have our codes on the bottom, and we own this actual shape of the bottle. This shape is actually patented. In case you guys didn't know, our founders of Gelish, they are world champion nail techs. And so they decided that they wanted to create a shape of a bottle that's very ergonomic for nail techs. And many of our products are designed by world champion nail techs themselves. I had that on 60, it only needed 30. I'm going to do my second coat here, and it's the exact same way. So if you could get into the routine of just releasing most of your product, not at the cuticle, but but below the cuticle, you're going to have a lot of success with gels not flooding and not chipping and wearing off. So I got my nail covered. Now I will get closer. So once you release most of your product, get as close as you can without touching. Like I said earlier, if you do touch, the color stage would probably be the one of the better stages if you touched, but touching any parts of the skin is not good just because of the residue that can be left behind will cause lifting. I got my full nail covered. Anytime you have the whole entire nail covered and you're ready to go into light, finish the entire nail off with a stroke from the top of the cuticle all the way down to the free edge. Full, long length strokes. That's going to give you a perfectly smooth finish. So if you look at my finish here, it is nice and smooth all the way around. My apex is in a nice spot. Going to cure that. And this nail, I'm going to use a different top coat. This is a top coat that we've kind of designed for more people that are constantly into, let's say, dyes and color, hairstylists, things that can stain their nails. This type of top coat is very resistant to stains. Sometimes if you're wearing like a brand new pair of dark blue jeans and you're gonna rub this nail on there, it can pick up some of that dye and it can get on that surface. But with this anti-stain top coat, it kind of just slips right off. And this anti-stain top coat also does have an inhibition layer. So you will need to wipe this as well. And we do have a no cleanse gel top coat, but most of the times we use that one for our chrome. I'm gonna cure this. For some of you guys that don't know, I was a an artist that went to art school, dropped out of Disney school, but my favorite thing to do still is going to be nail art. And so this is some hand painted nail art that I've done for Valentine's Day. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this movie, but that is what I like doing the most. Although doing this is great, my passion is always going to be the art side of things. Nail surface cleanse and then wipe off that inhibition layer. Get that nice and clean. So now you'll see, got a nice finish on that. Now the final nail, we're gonna sculpt it. Um, I like to cheat on my sculptures. I like to build my form ahead of time. So what I mean by that is I take my form, I get it off here. I use the little sticky tab here in the center, and I will take the sticky tab and I will place it right where my free edge is, right there. But I want to leave this area where my free edge is going to go touch. I want to leave that alone. I don't want that tab way over there making that area thicker when I need to slide a nail under there. I'm going to take some scissors and going to cut what looks like it's going to look like Batman here. So we call this the Batman cut because it looks like Batman's head or the silhouette of Batman's head. So I cut it to look something like this. Um, and then I will take this over and pinch these two little wings together. And then you should have a shape like a teardrop here. Once you have that shape, I like to break this apart and then I'll spread those down. And you'll see when I spread those down, it looks like a tip almost right here. So now this looks like a tip almost, right? And I can take this and just slide it underneath my free edge. I don't have much of a free edge, but I could slide it right under there and press it in to seal that in. But before I do that, I'm going to leave this to the side. So this is how I create a form on on the side. I don't have to just push that up against the nail and do every one. I could have a bunch of these set on the side and ready to go. We're going to always start with pH bond. And let's say you're doing just a regular nail polish manicure. Use this before you apply your base coat, and your nail polish manicure will last longer. It will last longer because it's now pH balanced and really dehydrated. Also removes any oils from the surface. Think of like when you're cooking on the pan, and if you have oils on your pan, anything that you cook on there should come off a lot easier than if you didn't have oil. Unless you have a non-stick pan, of course. Okay, pH, now foundation. Gonna put my base coat on before I put my form on. That way I'm not fussing around with this brush with a form on my nail. So get foundation, same way. A lot of people ask, why is the brush so short in foundation? And the reason why is because with gels, when you apply a lot of pressure, um, especially with a short brush, it even has more pressure. Now you're scraping gel. And by scraping it, you're making a lot thinner application. So you'll see here, I'm going back and getting that closer to the cuticle. But we have a short brush because it allows you to get very little product. And it's it helps with the scraping action of removing gel. Anytime I cap the free edge, I always brush over just to smoothen the free edge out. Because if you cap really heavy, you're gonna have this lip right there on the free edge, which can cause an imbalance there. And I don't want to do that. All right, I'm gonna apply my form now. Oh, I need to cure that for 5 seconds first, and then apply form. So I have my form ready. I'm gonna choose what brush on builder I want to use. Let's see. Maybe a pink sand nude. Let's try that. So this way, just gonna slide this underneath my nail, press the two sides, and squeeze that together. I double check from the side angle, and that looks good to me. Same exact thing. Gonna apply a thin coat, but the only thing different about using a form is I'm gonna flash cure and then do a little bit of a pinch, but not right now. So right now I'm going to do a thin coat. Same thing, apply towards that middle, apply down, and get your natural nail covered. So I'm going up towards the cuticle now, getting it closer without touching a thing. Now I'm going to turn my hand over and I'm going to scrape the product at the free edge to seal that free edge in. Once I've sealed that free edge in, I can drag some of this down past the free edge. And then we're going to cure this.
I'm not for sure what you mean when you said you scraped before you dragged it.
I'm sorry, scrape. Basically,
Huh?
anytime that when we say scrape, that's kind of removing gel. Um, so think of it like here, I'll show you an example of when we scrape gel products is let's say I have, and you'll see the viscosity of brush on builder is much thicker. Okay, so you see how that's really heavy and it's bulky and it's sticking right up off my thumb. Well, when I put a lot of pressure on it, now I'm scraping it off and now it's not there. Does that make it clearer?
Yes, so when you did the free edge, you just scraped in the
Yes,
opposite direction.
correct.
Okay.
So I'm taking the brush here and I'm scraping it, pressing it hard, creating that scraping motion right on the free edge there. And that way it's pressing right up against my natural nail and the product itself. Okay. So I'm going to do the exact same thing like before. I'm going to do that thin coat. The thin coat is so important. And if You guys see other thin coats? Oh wow, it's gotten the screen's bigger. That's way better. When we're building these, we always press firmly. And when you press firmly, you are doing it is scraping. And that's just how that's just natural for gels to react that way. I'm gonna build that out. We're gonna cure that. With sculptures, you're gonna find that you need to build more layers. Um, this one, I'm flash curing it just a little bit. I look at the side here and I need to build more. Okay. Flash cured it. Now I'm going to take my fingers here and I'm going to press it and feel where this product is right now. And it's still moldable and bendy. So I pinch the side here in and I'm going to cure it fully. Pretty much the reason for pinching is when you're building strength and you're trying to really get a strong foundation. If your nail is completely flat, it could crumble much easier than if it had an arch in it. And you'll see like a lot of our bridges are built with arches because this is a true natural form of strength. The arch is such a great way of building strength. We put it under our doors, we put it under our bridges. We do a lot with this shape. And so we try to do the same thing with the nails. And that's why we try to take a flat nail, we try to pinch it to get that arch. Um, Whereas if a nail is flat, it can crumble like this. Without much resistance, it could crumble. But if it had a nice arch to it, now it's much more resilient from impact from many different directions, from under, from top. It's much more resistant now. So that's kind of the theory behind building an arch or building what we call a C curve. I'm going to build a little more. So anytime you build, always have that thin coat. That thin coat is going to be the best way to build. Gives you the easiest way to control this stuff. It's not like back in the day. I know some of us may be familiar with back in the day when people were using jarred types of builder gels and you had this big old string attached to your brush and your it's not really that difficult anymore with these brushes in the bottles. It's so easy to control. It's so much easier than it was before. And they flow much better than the gels in the jars. The way they the way they flow on the nail is just way better. And I got my thin layer. I want to build because I do see I need a lot of strength there. It's way too flat. I don't want to do it one shot because that can get really hot. So you'll see here I got I'm gonna try to show you guys here. Get my bead, and once I touch, you see my brush is not touching the nail. Just guiding this bead, guide it to where it needs to go, and release it. And it should be like that. It's gonna get super smooth, super quick. And we're gonna cure that. And so yeah, when you're releasing, that's probably the hardest part is the release of that bead right at the end. And that really just takes a little bit of practice. Now, a few practice strokes and knowing how much pressure is 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 needed to be applied, which is very little to none. Gonna continue. Hey, I'm going to build one more coat and then do a flash cure and pinch one more time. You'll see that my nail got narrower, and it got narrower because I pinched it, went back in. One more coat, and I think I should be good just to build the apex. But always get that thin coat on there nice before. And you'll see where I have my gap there. I'm going to fill that gap, get close to that cuticle area. And then cover that entire nail. Don't worry about your free edge. You're going to shape that. So I never, when I'm doing sculpts or even many times with tips, I don't really worry about my free edge because that's going to be the first place you file. Make sure you got full coverage, and now we're going to build. So now I want to build my apex to be strong, get a full on bead, and this is a longer nail, so I do need to build strength, but you can't do this with structure gel. You can't do this with foundation flex. You can only build a nail like this with brush on builder. Let's give it top. I think the top view is the best to show you guys this. So just see where that bead is. I'm just guiding that bead down the center. And then when I want to release him, I'll release him right there. Then when I turn it over, it's going to be in the perfect spot. Smoothing itself out right now. You can see with the reflection, it's smooth enough. We're going to cure it. I let that cure for about 10, 15 seconds, and then I'm going to pinch it. And anytime you're pinching with your bare hands, um, you're pinching on inhibition layer as well. So make sure that you cleanse your fingertips afterwards. So I clean my fingertips really good afterwards. And I let this thing go through its full cure after I've pinched it. And once you go to a certain degree, there's no more pinching. You're going to take your form off. And your edges, you're going to see that your edges are definitely going to need to be refined, right? The quickest way is to use an electric file, which I will do. I'll take this, wipe it clean. Here I'm going to use a wireless electric file. I'm picking a wireless electric file. I'm going to put it in the unlock, put my bit in. I don't need my bit fully extended out. It's actually, if you have your bit fully extended out, sometimes you can cause it to wobble and create some weak spots in that shaft itself. So I like it to be more stable, so I have it just barely extended off from there. I'm going to turn this on. I like to have it as fast as it can go, which is 35,000 RPM. And I'm using a really sharp bit here. First thing I like to do is shorten the length here. So I will go in here and chop the length. I double check to see that my free edge has a nice thickness to it. Gonna shape. Got rid of the bottom. Gonna do the same thing on the other side. Got that. I want to be more pointed, more of a stiletto style or a coffin style here. Cut those down. And most of that filing is done already, just within seconds of using this. Turn that off. Gonna hand file now. I always like to get my sidewalls first. Make sure you get all your edges, the sidewalls, free edge, and always the cuticle would be the very, very last. Cuticle and the apex area. And I always make sure I change my pressure when I get to that area. So my pressure right now is kind of rough, kind of hard when you're getting your initial shape of everything. Make this one a little more aggressive, a little more pointed. You'll see this is super strong product. It's extremely hard. This will go for like 3, 4 weeks without any lifting, no issues. I'll just thing I noticed with brush on builder is yes, you can soak it off, but man, most of the times you're just doing fills. I don't think I've ever soaked anybody off with brush on builder except myself. But I haven't soaked anybody else off. Sorry, I have to pull off camera because a little bit easier for me to get nice strokes when I'm not underneath that. So just gonna get most of my sides filed. Yes, see, hidden, but you'll see that doing these long strokes that really, really help. But I better file this off camera because I'm banging the camera. Do you guys have any questions while we're on this subject? Or am I being unclear on anything that I need to clear up? No? Cool. That's great.
Is this going to be on a replay, and how do we get to the replay?
I know this is being recorded. I just don't know how. Um,
I can answer that. Yes, it's being recorded, and once it gets downloaded, we will put it on the Your New School YouTube page, and that's where you'll be able to find it.
Very cool.
And then somebody asked if you can just show your nail art again.
Uh, so
The
this is using Chrome and so the hearts were done in Chrome. The paint itself is all done with art gel. So the art gel that I use is going to be the Gelish Art Form gel. But I do a lot of these and I have a lot of videos. So later on, if you guys want, I can give you my social handle and you can check out a bunch of the videos that I have on YouTube and TikTok and all of them really. So here's the final nail. I'm going to dust it off. But take a look at the apex here. That's what we really want to show is have the strength is going to be really right here, right now. That's where all the strength is right there. In 2 weeks, that strength is going to move down a little bit here. But right now, some people will say the apex is too far back. Um, and I do that on purpose if the nail is going to grow out. If the person was only going to wear the nail for one day or a couple days, then I would move it forward just a little bit. So here we're at the stage of polishing this nail. We can polish it really easily using the same gel polish, but I'm going to do a blooming gel design on this nail just to finish things off.
Question. So
Yeah.
why isn't your apex down closer to the free edge or to where the nail leaves the skin? Because it's
So
like,
when it grows out, that's typically where I put my apex. Because most of my people will always come 3, 4 weeks. And so I move mine back. But for if you're gonna do a client in every 2 weeks, I would move it forward a little bit.
And is that going to be strong enough to withstand, you know, hits and
Oh,
bumps and stuff?
oh yeah, absolutely. So, this product is so strong. This brush-on builder. That's why this product I could sculpt with it, and you can see how super thin it is. It is super thin, but this is going to be very strong. I couldn't do that with this or with this. It wouldn't be strong enough. But with brush-on builder, I definitely can.
So you
So with
saying the brush on builder is stronger than the builder in the pot?
you, uh, It's a it's a close call. It's going to be stronger than the straight up clear. Like this one's just clear, but we also have a builder clear, which it can go head to head with it. But this will definitely be stronger than this, and this will be stronger than this. So I went from the weakest to the strongest application. So like this would be weak. I cannot really extend that. If I put a tip on, I could barely extend it a little bit before that starts breaking down. Structure's a little stronger, so I can apply a tip to it and extend it. But your brush on builder, this is going to be your strongest. And this you can even sculpt with it. Where if I tried to sculpt with any of these two, it would fall apart. It would not hold. Here, I'm just going to do the exact same thing. I know it's very repetitive. And nails, a lot of it is going to be very repetitive. A lot of times we have to do things repetitive over and over and over again in order to just get in the flow of it. And I know that not everybody does everything the same way I do. That's why I'm letting you guys know that, there's a lot of options. You don't have to polish it where it looks like it's grown out like this and then try to get it closer. You could whatever works for you. If it's working for you, don't change it. Just hoping that you guys get something out of this that can be beneficial. Okay, so that you see the gap, but the nail is perfectly smooth. That shine right down the middle, you can see how smooth that is. Give that a 30-second cure. And then we're going to do our second coat. And then I'll show you guys a little bit about blooming gel. A lot of us have tried using something like this. There's different ways of using it, and there's different ways to control it.
So while you're polishing, I'm just going to put a reminder. So for those of you who are logged in, if you are a student and you're logging in remotely, please type your attendance information in the chat box. It needs to be your full name, full school name, and school location, city and state. If you're an educator and you're logging in with your class as a group, then I just need your school name and location. Again, just city and state, and certificates and additional information about the products today will be emailed to your schools. The chat box is the only thing that saves when I log out. So please make sure that that information is in there before you log out. Thank you.
Now that, and we're going to cure it. Um, Couple little things about blooming gel. When you're using blooming gel, there's if you're gonna apply a thick coat, it's gonna bloom a lot and it's gonna bloom in a big pattern. If you apply a thin coat, it's gonna bloom a lot slower and a lot less. The type of gel matters too. If you use a hybrid gel where there's some solvents in there or it smells like nail lacquer, it's going to bloom a lot faster as well. If you're using a pure gel where there is no chemical smell, it's more of a plastic smell to that gel, it will bloom a little slower. I know that might have been a little confusing. Um, the best way you can tell if a gel is pure or if it's a hybrid is the smell of the gel. Not recommending everybody open up all their gel bottles and smelling them all, but that's the way you can tell. So for this, I want to do a very slow bloom, and I'm using a hybrid gel. So this one is a hybrid. There is some form of solvents in it, which it does help it bloom faster. So same thing. I always start my same application right in that middle, and then I just like to release most of the stuff that's on the brush and not releasing it right at the cuticle. And then I'll get up to the cuticle as the brush runs out of product. And I never cap with blooming gel. I find that blooming gel, if you cap with it, it just leaves this big dot right at the end. Um, so here we're going to take our white, and this is just a regular white gel polish. And you see, I'm releasing some of the product back in because I don't need a lot. I hold the brush down so it makes a little teardrop, little bead at the end there. And then I also get a wipe because I know that this brush is going to cross contaminate with this. So I have my little wipe there ready. I release down the middle. And you'll see it just slowly start to blend because I did a very thin coat. If I did a thicker coat, it's going to bloom right away. It's going to bloom everywhere, and I would have no control over where these are going. But this is just going to bleed into making a snake skin. My first bead was way too big, and it dropped over there. But there's really no going back after you dropped it. So once you have that, wipe your brush, let that continue to bloom. And I'm letting that bloom out. And you can even use a dotting tool. But one thing I notice about a dotting tool, when you're doing this snake skin or pattern, it leaves a black dot in the middle of every single cell. So I would rather use the brush in the bottle and then just clean it rather than having a black dot in every single one. And that's or a colored dot or whatever dot is going to leave behind. Um, this application does not leave that dot. So that's what I prefer. And I feel like at this stage it's a good bloom. I like where it is. I'm going to cure it. And I'm going to introduce you guys to something that we just started shipping. This is kind of new, and this is going to be a velvet no cleanse top coat. So with this, I do not need to wipe. There is no inhibition layer, and the gel will have a matte velvet type of finish to it. Most no cleanse gels you're going to want to cure for 60 seconds. Um, this one is a 30-second, but if you feel like you need to cure it for 60, feel free. Almost all almost all the gels that we make, none of them have any properties of being over cured. So even if you over cure things, you're not going to damage it. Whereas like back in the day, we could damage our gels if we over cured them. We could get them to be yellowed, brittle. It's not like that anymore. Much harder to damage gels by over curing them nowadays than it was, say, 10, 15 years ago. And if you guys are someone that uses the gelish light here, this light does have a focus spot. So you'll notice that my hand is all the way in there. My thumb is completely in there. If you're using one of these lights and you see your client have her thumb out, she's not using this correctly. Uh, when your thumb's out, that means you're not in the focus area. So this light has this little bumper here, which lets you know you're in the area where the focus of the light is. So unless you have extremely long fingers, if I see someone with their thumb hanging out, I know they're not in there correctly. They have to be in there. I just came out and take a look at this. It is there's no shine. I don't need a wipe. It has this very addictive feel to it. It um, it's a very like suede type of nail. Gonna always finish off with the thing that we try to do so much to remove in our prep is the oils, right? We always try to remove any oils because oils does it prevents adhesion. But now that we have everything adhered, we're putting moisture back in. We have this was our original cuticle oil, but the most popular thing right now is using hyaluronic acid with everything. So we just made a new cuticle oil with hyaluronic acid. We call it the HA oil. And now we can put moisture back in, and it's okay because everything is sealed now. The oil should not get inside or underneath the nails, causing them to lift. And so, just a really quick little recap. Um, First nail was this. Foundation Flex is this nail. Um, we did our structure in this. That's my structure nail with a tip. And then we finished our index with that. So these were the nails. And if you guys have questions, I would love to answer them now. Also, write down for you guys uh, my social handle is Voodoo Nails. That is my social handle. Um, and I have a bunch of videos, tutorials, but I mainly focus on nail art. So that is going to be what my focus is most of the time. I do have short videos on, how to pre-make your forms like this, like what you guys saw earlier. But yeah, if you guys get a chance, check that out. Have any questions? I would love to answer them now.
Real quick, just wondering, all of these products that you went through today, are they all soak off product?
Correct. You can soak them all off, and mainly it's because the foundation, what we put down as our base coat, is soak off. So by using a soak off base, that makes all of these products soak off. The hardest one to soak off is going to be the brush on builder.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Boo, somebody asked if you can put the bottles back on camera view so they can see each of the products.
Yeah. Um, we started with Foundation Flex. We did structure, and then we finished with our bob. Also, we did foundation. We had, but prior to everything, we have pH. Well, prior to all this, we have our cleanser, but we know. Um, I also used 3 different top coats, and they all went in this order as well. So those are the main products that we use today. We did have a little bit of blooming gel at the end there, but these are the main enhancement products that we use today.
Okay, so I mean, I can answer the question if you want, but one of the questions is what is the standard time they last? So the longevity.
2 weeks is the standard. We typically go way over that.
Yeah, I typically go up to 21 days.
Yeah, I've had girls hold on to these nails for 8, 10 weeks sometimes. It's crazy.
Yeah, my daughter went, what's May, June, July, 2.5 months because she was out of the country and they lasted the whole time.
Yeah, yeah.
It was
If you have
amazing.
a good seal and you have good structure and a good foundation you're building on, it can go for months. But
All right. I
building,
think,
go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was saying,
I
you
was
say building the foundation and having a nice structure that really helps. But having great natural nails and paying attention to somebody's natural nail condition will also help. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Teresa.
and again, proper prep, keeping that nail clean, getting off all the non-living tissue is
Yes,
key.
yes. Knowing how and knowing how to use something like this and getting into the sidewall. Like a lot of times people don't see the angle, but the angle is way deep in here. And really, you see the white skin even
Yep.
getting really deep in there and getting that stuff out of there. A lot of times we don't do that, and that ends up biting us later, you know? And
I want to
also,
share a screen really quick. I don't know if I'm gonna have to, um, hmm, let me, let me know if you guys can see my screen. I'm gonna share my screen or not.
it was up for a second. I don't know what happened, but it was up there for a second.
Okay. So hopefully my screen is up. If my screen is up, thank you for those who attended. Certificates in attendance and more information about these products are going to be emailed to your school. So if you logged in and you put your attendance information in the chat box, your school, later today, I do have another webinar that I need to log into, but I will by after that webinar send out your attendance and your certificates to your school along with all the information on these products and special offer for those of you who jumped on for your schools to be able to get some of these products. And so we'll share that with your school educators or administrators, whoever I have as the contact person. You'll get more information on all these amazing products. Question when the video is going to be up. It just all depends on how long the video Zoom notifies me that it's been uploaded. And then you'll just have to keep checking the Your New School YouTube. Usually we'll have it up, no, probably no later than tomorrow. Yeah, and our YouTube is Your New School, all one word. And I believe it's all caps as well. All right. Well, if there are no final questions, thank you guys so much for joining us. Vu, thank you so much for doing this for us. We greatly, greatly appreciate you bringing education to our schools for us. You are amazing.
Of
And you
course.
have more patience than I would ever have to do that type of thing.
Great
Well,
job,
thank you
Boo.
guys.
Thanks, Boo.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
no problem. Good
All
luck,
right.
everybody. Thank you guys
Thank you
very
guys so
much.
much. And I am logging everybody out. Have a great afternoon.
All right, later,
Thanks.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.